Nisargadatta Maharaj, Nothing is Everything, December 22nd, 1979. You are the proof that God exists. Visitor, although we hear from you again and again that we are not the bodies, we cannot help taking every care to keep them safe and healthy. Maharaj, a sage does not expect anything from the body. He leaves it to nature to do the needful. Sister, does he have any duties to perform? Maharaj, he has no name and form, hence no duties. He is timeless, but the time begins with consciousness. You also experience day and night because of consciousness. At the end of the last day, consciousness also will be no more. When there is no consciousness, there is no happiness or unhappiness. What happens to the water in the wet cloth which is left to dry? Similarly, our sense of being is the quality of wet food juices. When the juices get dried up, the sense of being vanishes like water in wet cloth. The visitor is explaining that he is not able to overcome the body consciousness and is making all effort to keep the body safe and healthy, even though he knows that he is not the body. Maharaj says that a sage does not expect anything from the body, as he is no longer the body and leaves it to the nature to take care of it. Nature is one which has produced the body and has already provided sufficient amount of protective and corrective methodology also in case needed. And the nature or the manifestation in the body takes care of the body. All that is done is to provide food and water at regular intervals to the body and allow it to do the rest. That is all that is done for the body. For another question, whether the sage has to perform any duties, Maharaj is explaining that as the sage has no name or form, he has no duties. The name or form belongs to the body. Once the body is relinquished, then the name and form are automatically relinquished. Therefore, there are no duties to the sage, and he has moved to his timeless state, which is the I am principle, the Atman, and the absolute principle. The time is one which starts with the consciousness, and the consciousness principle I am entered in this body. It has created a three-body principle or manifested as a three-body principle. And that principle in turn is available in space and time. The I am principle is not in space and time, it is outside the realm of space and time, because space is a concept of mind and not that of the principle I am. So the experience of all the things in space and time happens to the three-body principle because of consciousness. So you experience day, you experience night, etc. But once the consciousness leaves, then there is no more happiness or unhappiness. That's what Maharaj explains, because it has to leave one day. And once it leaves, there is neither happiness nor happiness in this upati, because the experiencing principle or the enlivening principle of this three-body principle has relinquished the manifestation. So it drops the manifested and walks out. Maharaj's example is to that of a wet cloth left in the air to dry. It is exposed to sun and air to dry. So So over a span of time, the sun and the air removes the water in the cloth. What you are is nothing but a quality of food juices. The food is the one which is enlivening the body because it is the one which is supplying energy to the body. And the essence of the food is the one which is deposited at Chidabhasa Anantakarna, and that is the I am principle which gives you the sense of being and also the knowingness. The Chidabhasa is the source for both sense of being I am and the knowingness in this three-body principle. So if the food supply cannot take place to the body and also to the Chidabhasa, because Chidabhasa gets daily expended and is to be replenished. When our thoughts come, that material is wasted. When the food supply stops, our body is becomes incapable of taking food and nourishing it and absorbing it. The sense of being vanishes like water in wet cloth. That is what Maharaj is explaining. Visitor, were there seekers of truth in the past? Maharaj, princes like Mahavir and Buddha left their kingdom in search of truth. For them, self-knowledge was more important than the comforts of ignorance. Visitor, how is the company of a sage useful? Maharaj, one comes to know the importance of vairagya, detachment. Its practice helps in understanding the Sadguru. When I visited my hometown recently after a long gap, there was none there to recognize me. All my acquaintances were dead earlier. Similarly, what I was acquainted with myself as so-and-so, that acquaintance has also gone. That knower of acquaintance also is no more. My state is beyond all acquaintance and recognition. In this process of knowing, there was an indication that I was born, but that was seen as untrue. Just as all our identities from an infant to an old man change with the time, all my knowledge about myself got erased and lost. It did not concern me at all. Even the sign of birth was recognized, but it became clear that it also did not concern me. Just as in my hometown I do not own anything, this birth was also not my own. So for a question whether there are seekers of the truth in the past, Maharaj is confirming that the seekers of truth are eternal. They are there all the time because that principle of I am creates that sensation to know itself. It is that principle which is alienated from its source, the Absolute, is the one which is trying to know where from it has come, and as long as that principle is there, the search for the Absolute will continue to be there. That's what Maharaj explained, that there are some princes itself like Mahavir and Buddha who have gone in search of it, and the other persons who have searched for this truth are very many. So what is the use of this sage and his company for a seeker? That is what the question is. Once you move to the stage, you understand what detachment is. Only when you are having detachment, then you understand the Sadguru. With attachments to the world, you cannot understand what he is uttering. What he is uttering is different. You have got a lot of attachments to the world. Then you interpret it with your knowledge of attachments, and what you receive as information is not what the Guru spoke, but what you understood. So in total detachment, you understand what the Guru is saying directly. The detachment should be there ultimately to the body. Initially it may be there to other things, because your attachment is only a mental one, and physically you cannot attach yourself to anything. Even the body which you think is yours is not attached to you in all the three states. It is detached from you in dream and deep sleep states and is attached to you only in the waking state. And you are very clear about it every day. Once this happens, you understand that you are not the body, but because you are stuck with the body in waking state, you believe that you are the body sometimes. That is during the course of the day. This is all due to the concept that you are born, etc. with a body. Maharaj is explaining that when he visited his hometown, he could not find any of his old accomplices because all of them were dead and gone. So there is nobody to recognize him in his village. Similarly, Maharaj said, the knower of acquaintances also is no more. In his case, he has withdrawn himself from the acquaintances which he has got. That is, whatever mind he has created, he has dropped it. Also, he has dropped that body which he considered it as his own. So, both the concepts of I and mind were dropped by him totally. That is only a mental attachment to these principles he has dropped. Not that he can eliminate all the people whom he knows. That is not the meaning of it. It is only a mental attachment that those people belong to him, or those insentient objects like house, etc. belong to him. That idea he has dropped totally. Also, he has dropped the idea that he is born. As your identities go on changing from childhood to old age, with time, also whatever identities Maharaj has created during the course of his life have been dropped completely once the realization has taken place. And he is not worried about dropping them. Maharaj, to a new visitor, 100 years ago your knowingness was absent, now it is present. Why? Visitor, due to my birth. Maharaj, your knowingness was absent at your birth, otherwise you would have remembered it. The knowingness appeared 3 to 5 years after the birth of the body. Are you responsible for your birth? Visitor, no. It happened without my knowledge. Maharaj, 2 people had some enjoyment and the third had to suffer for no reason. 82 years back, a young couple had a nice time together and I have been suffering all these 82 years. Once you know that it is not your birth and that you have nothing to do with it, you are free. Mister, are we responsible for our thoughts? As long as there is breathing, the thought flow goes on. You make use of some thoughts and ignore others. Why should you be responsible? But do not get involved with thoughts. Remain free. So Maharaj is questioning another visitor about his knowingness and the presence of the same 100 years back, and visitor says it happened only after his birth. And Maharaj confirms that the knowingness has not come immediately at the time of birth, but it happened at an age between 3 and 5 years, because the food juices, whatever he has consumed, or converted from Panchikruta to Apanchikruta, that Sattva-guna Visishta material is taken and deposited on the Antakarana and the subtle realm, and that is called as Chidabhasa. When a layer of sufficient thickness is formed, then your capacity to think and know things happen. That is how you know that you are, and also started recognizing the world. That is due to the food principle. And also the visitor confirms that he is not responsible for his birth and it happened without his knowledge. So Maharaj is explaining the principle of male and female creates a baby. And the male and female principles combination creating the bodies, and the bodies in their form, there is no problem, but they suffer for their lifetime because of the principle called as the ego. Without ego, the bodies and minds do not suffer. Only the ego says that the suffering is its. Sometimes pain happens in the body, but that pain is only an indication that there is a malfunction in the body and that needs attention. But suffering was not there. Suffering is the creation of the ego which creates the problem. If you are clear that the body is only a principle that is appearing in the manifestation, and you are not that body, you are totally free. That is, once out of ego, you understand the manifestation as it is, and you no longer get worried about the body, because body is not yours. Body is part and parcel of the manifestation. It is a food principle, and food is taking care of the body. All bodies are taken care of by food, and you are not that body. That is very clear to you. The thoughts also come in the upati continuously, because the prana is moving. As long as the prana or the subtle life force is moving, the thoughts do come. Only thing is, you have to keep yourself detached from the thoughts, because you know that those thoughts are not yours. The body functions, the thoughts function, and the thoughts should function only when the required. But until the thoughts are due to the mind charter, a principle called ego, which tries to create those thoughts. You should not get involved with thoughts, and once you don't get involved with thoughts, the ego goes off automatically. You are enlivening these thoughts and getting associated with the thoughts. So if you keep yourself detached from the thoughts, the ego will lose its power. Maharaj is questioning, how is your existence related to that of God's? Visitor, God is great, hence I am. Maharaj, because God is, you are there. But you are the proof that God exists. Yours and God's existence is mutually interdependent. Your existence is because of your parents. Now your parents exist in your form. You prove the existence of your parents. Are you a real seeker? Visitor, yes. A real seeker loves to be in the company of a sage. He listens to him with great attention. The sage makes him bodiless. That is the real thread ceremony. Brahmins start wearing a thread after that ceremony. A mumukshu is one who desires liberation. When he learns that he is not the body, he becomes a seeker, a sadhaka. The name is given to the body. Hence the bodiless becomes nameless. One's true nature without name and form is to be realized. On what does existence depend? So for a question regarding the relationship of his existence with that of the God, the visitor says, God is great, hence I am. Maharaj is explaining that the existence principle that is there in the God and you is one and the same. You says that you are the proof that God exists. God means here the consciousness of the Atman. So that the highest principle in manifestation, its existence is proved when it manifests as a three-body principle. Otherwise, there is no one to know that that principle exists. That principle cannot know itself because it is dormant, and it has to prove its existence by manifesting, and for manifesting it needs a prana. Once the prana appears with an embryo, that principle becomes active. Once it becomes active, it confirms its existence, and with its existence, the prana and embryo take shape and appear as a three-body principle. So the existence of the existence principle called the consciousness and the existent one called the three-body principle are mutually dependent. They are interdependent. Your body is the contribution by your parents. They have contributed to your physical body. Whereas nature has contributed for your subtle principle. Nature means the Atman has contributed for your the subtle body and enlivening the physical body. Without the Atman, the embryo cannot take shape into the physical body, because at the time of death, the Atman walks out of the Upati and the physical body is there, but it cannot perform. So the Atman is essential for the physical body to take shape. Without that, the physical body cannot come out of the embryo. Strictly speaking, the principle of Atman is dormantly there in the embryo itself, because the embryo is nothing but the essence of the food juices, and the food juices, that principle of the Atman is very much dormantly existing. So your physical body confirms the existence that of your parents. That is what Maharaj said. So also he said that a real seeker loves to be in the company of a sage, because he understands the sage and hears to him attentively, and in the process the sage gives such information through which this real seeker loses his identity with the body. So this is called as a real thread ceremony. In the Vedic age, the principle called the thread ceremony, that is, when the thread ceremony is performed, you get eligibility to go for education. That is a principle through which you get eligibility to go through education. It is a ritual formed in the Vedic times, and that is considered as the second birth. Once the thread ceremony is over, your childhood stage is over, and the second birth has come, where you are allowed to go for knowledge. So that is what is called as the thread ceremony. And later on it has become a ritual, whether you go for education or not, and this is followed by one of the castes, which is called, it is followed by all the castes except one. A mumukshu is one who desires liberation. When he learns that he is not the body, he becomes a seeker, a sadhaka. Maharaj is explaining that stages that are there. A mumukshu and a sadhaka, there is a slight difference, that mumukshu is still with the body consciousness, with the idea that he is the body, and sadhaka is one, or the seeker is one, who has lost the body identity. So once you become bodiless, you have become nameless. That is, you don't identify with the name, because nama and rupa are one and the same. A name is given to a form. So if the form is not recognized, its name also cannot be recognized. So your true nature, the Atman, has no name and form. Nobody calls the Atman by that name. And that is a principle which is there in every upati. Without the Atman, no sentient entity can stay. But in the case of human beings, every body is recognized with a name. In the case of pet animals, they are also given names. But you give the totality of the animal world names. You don't give the totality of the other existing sentient bodies names. Only human beings When they are interested in recognizing the bodies, whether they are human or animal, then they give them names and call them by names. So the idea is you recognize a body with its name. Once you know that you are not that body, its name loses all the meaning. For a question on what does existence depend, visitor answers that on God. Maharaj, it is nameless. Let us call it Paramatma so as to understand what I mean. It is wordless, timeless, and even without consciousness. Just as the earth supports all life on it, the entire existence is because of Paramatma. The existence of Paramatma is as if non-existence. Still it is eternal. All other existence appears so much and so true, but it is all time-bound. The time-bound can be known, but not the eternal, which is always the knower and not the known. Maharaj is explaining that the ultimate principle or the highest principle is the absolute, and it is outside the realms of the total manifestation. The manifestation is in the Pratibimba Tattva or in the spit, or the same is called the Mahat Tattva, and that alone assumes an identity called I am, and it becomes the creative matrix for the whole universe and manifests the universe along with the sentient and insentient beings in it. Whereas the absolute is outside the total realm of manifestation and is independent of it. Just as the earth supports all life on it, the totality of existence or the spit is supported or enlivened by the absolute by radiating Chaitanya. So once any principle within the manifestation is capable of receiving Chaitanya, and it says I am, and it knows that it exists. Once it knows that it exists, it is confirming the existence forever. Because the Absolute's radiation continues forever. It is not in time, and Absolute is constantly radiating the Chaitanya. It is sometimes called as non-existence because the Absolute is not aware of its existence. Because the principle of I am is not there in the Absolute. It is the eternal principle. For us, the earthly existence appears real and true, but it is not so. It is time-bound and it is constantly changing. During the course of any physical entity that exists on this plane for say 80, 90, even 100 years, the amount of change that it experiences is negligible or very limited. Whereas, if you look for thousands of years, then you see that there is total change in what is happening around and the existence on this plane. The earth is existing as on date for about 200 crores of years, and there are enormous number of changes that happen, and it is going to continue for some more time, and during this period there will be lot more changes than that happened. So the life and the existence on this planet is constantly under flux. It is constantly changing. But the changeless one in the totality of the universal manifestation, not limited to this earthly principle alone, but totality of manifestation is the absolute, and everything happens due to it. It is the ultimate principle. Wisdom, that was our being 100 years ago. Maharaj, yes, it cannot be known in duality, but you are it in non-duality. People want the joy of knowing it, which is not possible. In that sense, it is unworldly. All that is time-bound, including great incarnations, is untrue. Only the eternal is the true. All gods with name and form are not eternal. So Maharaj is explaining that with a physical body you can know what is available in the physical universe. That is all you can grasp. You cannot even grasp anything in the subtle because you cannot see with this physical body the subtle. Your own prana you cannot see, your own antakarana you cannot see using these physical eyes, and you cannot hear to the noise your thought is making with the physical ears. So your subtle realms alone you cannot see or listen or understand. The understanding happens to someone who is inside it. The one that is inside it is the three-body principle, is the Chidabhasa Tattva, which is the knowing principle of the functioning of this the subtle realm of the three-body principle. And the Atman, which is knowing the total three-body principle, and the Absolute, which is outside the realm of the totality of the manifestation. So these are the higher principles, and the lower principle can never know the higher principle. So Maharaj is confirming that the time bound can be known, but not the eternal, which is always the knower and not the known. So the knower, ultimate knower, is the absolute. We should confirm that was our being 100 years ago. He is thinking that was his being 100 years ago, and now it is not his being. But Maharaj is confirming, even now your real nature is the absolute only. Your real nature has not changed. Your real nature continues to be the absolute even now with the upathiyu. Otherwise realization has no value and meaning. You cannot realize yourself. So it is possible to move to the absolute, and it means your real nature has not changed. Even now with the upadhi, your real nature is the absolute, because the upadhi belongs to the absolute. Absolute alone has come down in manifestation as this three-body principle using his pratibimba tattva or the spit. People want the joy of knowing it. That is, they want to stay as they are and want to experience the absolute. It is not possible. No lower realm can know the higher realm. So, if one people means those who are conscious of the body and want to know the absolute with the body. They are not in a position to know their subtle body itself. It is the question of knowing the absolute. So, such things are wrong concepts. Even the principles of God are made out of subtle bodies and gross bodies. They are nothing but physical entities only, but having a purer or higher order sattva-guna visishta material in their subtle realms. That is why they are called as the incarnations. And they are born without any ego. So their performance in the world is outside the realm of an ordinary human being who is having lot of worldly look, and the manifested incarnations have no worldly look, and they have come to perform certain actions which are required. But still they are the manifestation of the principle I am only, and they are time bound. Once the physical body is there, they become time bound. So all these gods are not eternal because they have a body and mind. Visitor. All names and forms have a beginning and hence an end. Maharaj, can the waking state talk to the deep sleep state? No. Maharaj, one side of a coin cannot see the other. Nothing gets finished. The small vanishes to become big. A water drop evaporates to become an ocean. The stocks of food gains go on increasing year after year. There is consciousness in various forms, and we have a man, a horse or a donkey. Because of consciousness, there is a sense of being. this sense of being, when gone, is not available again. So, the visitor is explaining that whatever appears as a form has an end, because all the forms are time bound and they disappear in time. Visitor says no, because the deep sleep state and waking state cannot interchange, and the one in waking state cannot know the deep sleep state, and the one in deep sleep state cannot know the waking state. So these two states are independent of each other, and knowledge of one will not create the knowledge of the other. Similarly, even though it appears that the totality is one, nothing gets finished. It is only a transformation from one state to another state is possible, and one state goes, the other state appears. Both the states are not coexisting at the same time. Like a water drop evaporates, then it becomes an ocean, and as long as it remains a water drop, it remains as a water drop. Once it gets evaporates and gets into a cloud, and when it rains on the ocean, it becomes part and parcel of the ocean. Similarly, everything in the world continues to exist in that form, and once it has taken a form, it is only in that form and not in the previous form from which this form has come. Whereas the only principle that is there, which does not lose its form but continues to exist in its own form, but appears as the totality of the universe, is that principle called the consciousness or the Atman, also known as the primordial matter or primordial energy. The principle of manifestation is that in which that material only appears as the totality of the universe without undergoing any modification to its basic nature. Its basic nature remains as such, but it is capable to appear as anything and everything. That is why that principle can withdraw back into its nature, everything what it manifests. Once the manifestation happens and the sense of being is created by the consciousness, once it goes, the sense of being goes, it doesn't come back to that particular upadhi, because that particular upadhi also gets wiped out. Visitor, what is responsible for this light of consciousness? Maharaj, is due to burning of food essence in the body. You are sitting here and you know it without effort. Before that, the principle which is without consciousness knows it. Thereafter, you come to know it, and your me and mine begin. In the morning, that principle which is without consciousness knows that there is waking. Thereafter, the body identity begins with the me and mine. Then the worldly activities begin. The Marathi word for waking is Jagrati. This word can be split into Jag, waking, plus Rati. Rati means small, and also it means the joy of union of the male and female. Thus, the waking state is the result of the short sexual enjoyment of our parents. Our worldly life is the operation of that waking state. If you meditate on this, you will know that secret of consciousness and your separation from it. So Maharaj is asking or answering the question there of what is the what is responsible for the light of consciousness? Why it is taking interest in entering? He says it is the nature. Its nature is to manifest, and the principle is a manifest principle and cannot keep quiet. It eternally manifests. All that is needed is for it an opportunity to manifest, and when that opportunity is created by it in the physical plane, it automatically appears and manifests. So the sattva, food essence in the body is there, and that alone is responsible for all the activities in the body. So this principle is known, Sattva-guna Visishta material in the three-body principle is known by the Atman which is before it. And that particular principle, Atman, starts manifesting as the sentient and insentient bodies. That is the same principle which is the first one to say I am. That is, this principle of I am appears in the morning when you are moving out of Sushupti to waking state. So at the time of Sushupti, the Antakarana is active because Chaitanya has entered into it. Once the food layer starts getting filled up, the Chaitanya does not enter any longer into the Antakarana because the reflecting layer has formed. And the Antakarana does not make any noise. Simultaneously, the I am principle of Chidabhasa is not at form fully, and Chidabhasa is not in a position to say I am. So when the I am of Chidabhasa is not available and Antakarana is not making any noise, the I am principle of the Atman is experiencing itself, and that experiencing is known. That is how the I am principle of consciousness or the Atman immanent principle is experienced immediately when you wake up, or the sense of waking up comes to you. After that, the I am principle of Chidabhasa becomes active, and with that, the three-body principle becomes active. Once the three-body principle becomes active, your physical body and its consciousness that you are the body comes to you, and along with that, the world consciousness also comes, and world becomes experienceable. Without that, the world is not experienceable, and all worldly activities happen. So Maharaj is explaining that the word Jagrati is used for the word waking. In this Jagrati, if it is split, it is called as Jag means waking and Rati means small. And also the enjoyment that is coming between male and female principles during their union. So this waking state is that where this Atman or through its upati comes into union with its manifestation called the world. In the waking state, the Atman starts experiencing its own manifestation called the physical world, and that is the union Atman is having. In the dream state, the Atman is having an union with the stored information in this upati, and that union is the one which is resulting in the dream state, and Atman is experiencing the dream state. So ultimate experiencer is Atman, and whenever it comes into union, creates a union for itself with the waking world, it is called as the waking state. When it creates a union for itself and starts experiencing the dream world, it is called as the dream state. So if you meditate on this, you will know the secret of consciousness and your separation from it. So you, the Absolute, are enlivening the whole process of this Atman itself, which is experiencing these things, and you are not this Atman. So if we can meditate on this consciousness, then you will understand that you are not the consciousness, but separate from it. Maharaj, I am making this secret so clear and open for you, but you will lack the capacity to grasp it and be free. Brahman is very ancient, which has two aspects, which are also ancient. One is Prakriti and the other is Purusha. Both are formless, but without them, no forms are possible. Both are responsible for all creation, including that of smallest sprout. These deserve your attention more than Vaikuntha and Kailas, the hearsay abodes of God, Vishnu and Shiva. Maharaj now is explaining about the Absolute. And he says, I am telling you the subtlest secrets in the manifestation, but because of your preoccupation with the world and worldly concepts, you are not able to appreciate any of them or absorb any of them correctly. That is what Maharaj explains. And the whole thing is blocked because the principal ego is not interested in this type of talk, but is more interested in the worldly existence. Because principal ego exists in time and the Atman exists in no time. So there is total conflict between these two, and the principal ego wants to move into time. That time means world. It is only interested in the world, and there is a thought form, and in the thought form it needs a information. The information that is useful for it is nothing but the worldly information. The principles of the Absolute are not of interest to it, so it will not allow you, as long as it's there, to grasp whatever the information Maharaj is conveying. That's what he is saying. The Absolute is the reality which is eternal. He says it is ancient because some words have to be used to explain it. It is not in time. Absolute is not in time. Time is a concept only at the level of the mind, because the events are recorded by the mind, and the difference between events also is recorded by the mind, and that is how time originates in mind. The basic principle in the Absolute, or the two facets of the Absolute, is its natural position as the Absolute, and the other one is when the power operates in it. When it is in the natural position, it is called as Purusha. When the power operates in the Absolute, it is called as the Maya. So the principle Maya generates the Pratibimba Tattva, or the spit out of the Absolute, and makes it appear to Absolute. This is what is called as the first principle of illusion. The Nirguna and formless Absolute, which has no material inside it. A material is created out of it and appears out of it, and that is the job of that principle called Maya, which creates the first illusion of a material outside the Parabrahman. That is called as the first illusion, and the totality of manifestation is in that illusion of the spit or the Pratibimba Tattva. It has no value. So the whole thing is an appearance, and the first appearance happens to the Absolute itself, because the power of the Absolute makes the Absolute see a material which is not real. So this particular principle of Purusha and Prakriti, they are formless and they are responsible for all creation in the totality of the universe from the grassroots level. And this is to be understood that the whole thing is happening because of Absolute, and you should come out of the thinking that of Vaikuntha and Kailasa, where the so-called gods Vishnu and Shiva created by you through thought are available. Vishnu and Shiva are not available for animals and other things which are ahead of you in manifestation on this planet. Only when you came and when you became human being, you created these gods out of your own imagination and installed them in your mind as if they are existing, and also you have created abodes for them called Vaikuntha and Kailasa in your mind only. And it is available only for certain human beings living in certain areas only. Totality of the human beings existing on this planet don't know these names of Vishnu and Shiva or their abodes as Vaikuntha and Kailasa. That itself shows the limitation of this thought of gods Vishnu and Shiva, and they are nothing but pure concepts. These gods are nothing but concepts in the human mind of a limited number of human beings existing in some area. So that is to be given up, and we should move into the understanding of the principle of Atman and the Absolute. That is what Maharaj is advising. Visitor, everybody knows that our parents were responsible for our arrival. We do not know its spiritual significance. Maharaj, meditation on your parents' conjugal bliss will show you how it is the birth of an illusion and not you. You, the eternal, did not know you are. Thereafter, the eternal started knowing that it existed. The ever-existing started knowing its existence. The bliss enjoyed by parents was formless, and the new Siam, which was also formless, appeared in a form, that is the physical body. You are the presence, mark of your presence. Your consciousness is the result of the bliss enjoyed by your parents. Hence the term Chidananda, Chit to perceive plus Ananda joy. That is consciousness bliss. Its importance is enhanced by adding Sat, that is Satchidananda, existence, consciousness, bliss. So the visitor is saying that he knows that he is born to his parents, but he has not understood the spiritual significance of that. Maharaj says you meditate on what happened during the union of your parents. During the union of your parents, what happened is a male principle is generated, which carries with it the information, genetic information, and goes and joins a female principle which carries its own genetic information. Unless these two are combined in a specific way, the physical embryo cannot be formed. So once they get combined in that specific way, a physical embryo results, and which in time grows into a physical baby or a body and is delivered as a baby. So it is nothing but food appearing after being processed in the womb through food, because in the womb it sucks food. So a food principle originally converted into a male and female principles through food when processed to the physical body and combined and then kept in a womb and sucks food, and that food, that embryo results in a physical body. It is nothing but food principle alone. That is the illusion. A illusion is manifested in nature. The capacity to generate a male principle called sperm and a female principle called ova are built into the system, and when you are born you don't know that such things are there. Even most of the grown up people don't know who they operate. They experience the result of all these things in the form of their children, and they claim that their children belong to them. But if you understand that there is nothing but food and that is appearing as that, your claiming will stop and you understand the reality behind the whole process. In the original principle, the Absolute is in a no-knowing state. That is, the Purusha is known as the no-knowing state. But once the power comes and operates in Purusha, that is, it starts knowing that it existed. The principle of Absolute is ever existing, but it does not know that it exists. It starts knowing that it existed once the power operates. And its Pratibimba Tattva or the spirit does not know that it exists. But when enlivened by Chaitanya, it knows that it exists. Like that, the bliss enjoyed by the parents, which was formless, has created this principle of I am, which appeared as a physical body. And you are the one with that physical body, and your presence marks the confirmation that of your parents and the bliss they enjoyed. So your consciousness is the result of bliss enjoyed by your parents. That is what Maharaj is confirming. That momentary bliss of the parents has resulted in the appearance of that consciousness, or the combination which created that consciousness, and your body appeared. The absolute principle is outside the realm of Satchidananda, whereas the consciousness, the Pratibimba Tattva, or the spit, is called as the Chidananda, or Chit and plus Ananda, or Satchidananda, which is existence, consciousness, existence, Chit and bliss. The existence principle is called Sat, the Chaitanya is called as the Chit, and Ananda is the bliss. Ananda comes because in the Pratibimba Tattva, or in the spirit, the material knows it is. Once it knows it is called as Ananda. Once it does not know that it is called as Ananda. In the absolute, the bliss principle is not there because it does not know that it is. It should be a material to know that it is. In the absolute, it is not having any material. It is formless. A formless one cannot have material inside that. So in the principle which has no material inside that, you cannot say that there is Ananda. So there is no Ananda in the absolute. It is only Sat and Chit. Whereas the Pratibimba Tattva is the existence principle. But when Chit enlivens it, then only it knows its existence. Otherwise, it does not know that it exists. And that is why it gets Ananda, because it knows that it exists. Maharaj, all living forms have consciousness resulting from the consciousness bliss of their parents. Your consciousness is a suffering resulting from that bliss. Your consciousness contains your world. Hence, your world is a result of that consciousness bliss of your parents. The parents are not individuals, but the formless Prakriti and Purusha. Many learned people would get wonderstruck by my simple Marathi words. So, Maharaj is confirming that the principle of the absolute percolates down to the lowest possible level. Is explaining that the consciousness which is appearing in your three-body principle as I am, or the immanent principle in you, is nothing but the consciousness bliss of the parents. What it is percolated from them. And that particular one has resulted in your suffering, because you are suffering after birth. Because the body has come, the suffering has started. And in your consciousness, you experience your world, because the totality world is contained in your consciousness. So, your world is a result of your consciousness. That is what Maharaj is saying. And that consciousness, what you are having, is derived from your bliss of your parents. So, you should understand that the parental principle is not the individual bodies, but the formless Prakriti and Purusha. That is what is to be understood. Any two bodies can procreate and generate a body. So, the question of the one which donates the male and the one which donates the female are not individuals, but that is the food principle. So, if you start building up this particular one to the absolute level, then you understand that the original principles of the absolute, called the Prakriti and Purusha, are responsible for the appearance of your physical body. That is why it is said that your upadhi is nothing but a manifestation of the Absolute directly. In between there may appear that there are so many stages that are there, but the ultimate reality is re-manifesting your body through these principles. They are all the principles used by the ultimate reality to manifest your body-mind complex and run it. So your upadhi is nothing but the expression of the Absolute. Through these mediums, all are treated as mediums only. So if this is understood, then you should feel happy that you are nothing but the one of evolute of direct of the Absolute only in a process called manifestation in specific stages. It may appear as if it is happening in stages, but the ultimate reality is the one who is interested in your upadhi and who has manifested your upadhi. So, visitor is very happy about the words that Maharaj has spoken. Maharaj, what is that entered the womb and was responsible for the growth? Visitor Chidananda, consciousness bliss. Maharaj, did that bliss have any form? No. Then what happened? Meditate on it. The consciousness bliss became the content of a womb and turned into I love of somebody in due course. So Maharaj says that this particular entity called yourself, which is in the womb, it has grown, and it is grown through a self-love procedure. This self-love procedure has already entered the womb and it starts loving itself because that consciousness which was dormant has become active. Once that becomes active, the immanent principle Atman starts loving itself and it is called as self-love. And that self-love, which is the one that is operating your upadhi, in due course of time, gives rise to other bodies. With the same principle of I love transferred to them. So makes the other bodies possible to have the self-love in them. So that is how the Atman percolates into the world as manifesting principle, and it manifests as the totality of the universe as both the sentient and insentient bodies. With this, we conclude this topic.